Hello everyone, Noku here, and I am glad to finally present my new passive and active skills tier list. I had made one before the game released for skills that were available in the beta, but we have now several new skills. Many skills have since been buffed or nerfed, and there were changes in the game's balance that will also alter the ranking of some skills. This will also serve as a guide since I will explain what each skill does and which transfer characters can roll the skill. One thing I will mention is that I judge the passives and actives between themselves and not against each other, so if I rank a passive in a tier above an active, it doesn't necessarily mean I consider it a better skill overall. I will first be ranking the passives, and we will finish with the active skills. Alright, enough intro, let's get this started. First up, Power Charger. This skill is bought in the shop and will allow your survivor to passively gain change power until you reach level 1. My opinion hasn't changed for this one, this is still a bad perk. Once you know the maps, you will reach level 1 in less than a minute 90% of the time, so this will rarely be helpful. And even if it does, this is still a dead passive after that point. I heard people talking about running this and leaving cubes until you reach level 1 so that you or someone else can go back for them later, so that more people could potentially reach level 3. But I don't think it's worth the early slowdown since playing as fast as possible is the right way to go in my opinion. High Alert. I tried all the stealth skill again before doing this list and my opinion has slightly improved on this perk. This is a go-on exclusive skill and it increases the range at which you hear all sounds that the raider makes. This can be somewhat helpful since you will also know exactly which direction the sound is coming from if you have headphones, and will also give you information on what the raider is doing because you can hear if he's shooting key blast or opening chests, etc. So instead of being in the trash tier, this skill will go up to the bad tier. You will still know where the raider is without this due to the raider usually flying in the sky with a very visible aura and other people seeing him, so this is still a skill that promotes hiding. I wouldn't waste a skill slot on this when you have much more helpful skills that will help you take the fight to the raider and win. On Guard. You can roll this skill on Vegeta and Tenshinhan, and it increases the range at which you hear the raider's heartbeat indicator. This goes straight into the trash tier. This is just a worse eye alert since the heartbeat sound won't tell you which direction it's coming from and doesn't give you any info. Terrible skill. Barrier Auto Recovery. You can roll this on Piccolo, Android 17, Android 18, and Majin Buu. This allows you to recover your shield automatically after a bit over 40 seconds if I remember correctly. This used to be slower, but it was buffed at some point after release. I love this skill and is one of my go-to. It's very rare that I don't use this skill in matches, and most of the time it will help me several times in a single match. It also allows you to ignore barrier items in favor of better items, and also help others that don't have the skill since you aren't spending any of the ones lying around, so there's more around for them. I will rank this at the Great tier. Emergency Transformation Device. You start with this skill equipped. My verdict on this has not changed since my last list. I'm glad they added this because it helps the noobs to not immediately get murdered by the raider, but once you have learned that you just need to press R1 to transform, this skill becomes completely useless. So this is a very easy trash tier. Key Detection. You can roll this on Goku, Piccolo, and Cell. Whenever any survivor has visuals on the raider while close enough, everyone will get a red indicator that shows where the raider is and how far away from you he is. This marker usually disappears after a few seconds once nobody else detects him, but this skill allows you to keep that marker visible for you for much longer than usual. Knowing where the raider is more often is certainly not useless, but again, you will still know where the raider is most of the time even without this perk if you look at the sky and pay attention, so I can't rate this any higher than bad tier. Movement Speed Dirt. I'll admit that I haven't tried this skill at all since the beta, but I had not noticed a significant difference when I stopped running it compared to when I was not. And as far as I know, this has not received any nerfs or buffs. Still, going a bit faster when walking can add up to a lot of save time overall, and playing faster is the key to winning more matches, so I will still rank this at the mid tier. Emergency Escape Device. You buy this in the shop, This will warp you out of a destroyed zone without your shield if you happen to still be there when the raider blows it up. Escaping the zone destruction is easy unless you happen to be in a really bad spot deep into the zone, so the only real use for this perk is to be able to stay in a zone to loot or finish placing a key without being down for it. This is just not really helpful, especially since keys are much longer to place now. This will be a dead passive in most games, so I will rank it into the bad tier. Slide. This is a Trunks exclusive skill, and it allows you to slide by pressing the right stick while going downhill. While this is helpful if the raider chases you somewhere where there is a hill going down away from the raider, well, this is pretty much the only scenario where this skill is actually good, otherwise it gets outclassed in pretty much every way by the other movement passives. Also, it removes your ability to go in crouch mode while running because you will slide instead, so this is annoying. This goes into the bad tier. Wall Kick. This is an Android 18 exclusive skill, but you can't actually roll this yet even though the Android transfer were released in the Spirit Siphon. Currently, you only have this skill if you pre-ordered the game, but hopefully they release it to everyone at some point because this is actually the best passive in the game in my opinion, so it would be unfair that new players wouldn't be able to get their hands on it. This skill allows you to wall jump by tapping the jump button while next to a wall. You actually need to not be tilting the directional stick towards the wall while you do this, otherwise you'll just stick to it like usual, so it takes a little bit of practice. I use this constantly to get up in height, which you need to do very often in this game. Without this skill, you will often have to either lose time by crawling up a wall slowly, or waste an escape active skill to reach high places. And having it will open up many new possibilities when trying to waste the raider's time by moving quickly when you would usually be stuck moving on the ground. Once you get used to this, you will never take it off, so this will be our first Z tier. Up next, hovering device. You buy this in the shop, and you should do so immediately because the skills is also amazing, almost just as good as wall kick, and they combine together in wonderful ways. Once equipped, you will gain the ability to float by pressing the right stick while in the air. This will allow you to increase your base movement speed by jumping and using it constantly. You will be able to cross gaps that would usually take forever to cross without it. It can save you from raider key blast if you are close to some cover to float behind. And more importantly, it gives you the ability to negate that annoying landing animation that occurs when you land from a great height. All in all, this is a skill that will save you a ton of time, and playing faster is the way to win more games, so this will also go into Z tier. Vehicle Jump Boost. This is a Krillin exclusive skill, and it greatly boosts the height at which your vehicles can jump. This might not seem that good on first glance, but it's very useful. There are tons of jumps you couldn't do before that will become possible with the skill. Using vehicles is an excellent way to move faster around the map, and this skill allows you to bring the vehicle with you when you would usually have to leave it behind. And will save you if the raider follows your Bulma bike somewhere that you wouldn't usually be able to jump out from. But it's not like this is a necessary perk either, you can still move around just fine with bikes without it, so we'll rank this skill into the good tier. Vehicle Speed Boost. You can roll this on Krillin and Frieza. Now, this is a skill that you need if you're running Bulma's bike. The extra speed boost that it provides is definitely noticeable, and it also combines really well with the normal bike or the Nimbus. Without this perk, the raider will be able to shoot you down where you would usually get away if you had it, and it's just fun to go even faster while boosting with the Bulma bike. This goes straight into great tier. Radar Range Boost. This can be rolled on Android 18 and Android 17. It will increase the range at which your radars will detect objects. The range increase is noticeable, you will be more efficient when hunting civilians, radars, and keys, especially if you have a level 3 radar, which can tip the scales in your favor if you are efficient about it. This goes into good tier. Rocket Rare Rate Boost. This skill is exclusive to Android 16 and increases the chances of you getting a golden rocket launcher when you would usually get a gray one. I'll admit I barely tried this, and this apparently works on Vending Machine, but I didn't notice a difference in the few matches that I ran it. The only situation where I would waste a slot on this is if you play with a coordinated group and you have someone run this perk so that they can buy as many rocket launchers as possible and drop them near where the time machine will descend in preparation of the STM defense. But overall, this is a bad skill. SOS. This is a Trunks exclusive skill. While I admit that it could be helpful to have it equipped on a preset in case you recognize the name in the lobby and you know that the raider and some of the survivors will team together, or if you know the raider is a hacker if on PC, but these are pretty much the only situation where I won't look down on someone running this perk. This allows you to call the escape time machine significantly faster, but why would you waste a slot on something that only lets you score a few extra points when you lose? When you can equip something that can actually help you win the game. Of course, once the situation is hopeless, you would rather have this instead of a lot of other perks, but you can't know the situation will turn out that way until the game started, except for the situation I listed earlier, so running this perk is having a loser mentality. If you have SOS at plus 20, shame on you, this perk goes straight into the trash tier. Special Service. This is a Frieza exclusive skill, and it is the only 5-star passive currently in the game. This gives you extra change power when your form runs out, or if you cancel it yourself. I believe it's 4% at base level and 6% at level 20 if I remember correctly. These percents only buy you between 10 and 20 seconds, which isn't that much, but it can still make a huge difference during the STM defense, where it can make the difference between the raider destroying the machine or you stalling him in time. If your strategy is to harass the raider as much as you can, this is the perk for you. I will put it into good tier. And our final passive, VIP Special. Yamcha and Android 18 can roll this. It gives you a significant discount on vending machines, up to 35% off at plus 20. This used to be the best passive in the game, but it has sadly greatly fallen since the beta. What used to make it so great is because cooldown drinks used to be OP, but now that they give you less change power and that you can only buy one per vending machine, its usefulness has greatly diminished. Players are also getting much better at gathering zennies compared to before, where a lot of players wouldn't break the destructibles. It's been quite a while since I've been in a lobby that gathered less than 8,000 total zennies unless half the lobby gets killed early or something, and we often reach up to 12,000 zennies, so the discount is much less required than it used to be. I think this is still technically a good skill currently, but I will actually rate it into mid tier, because the perk will become even worse once most raiders start destroying vending machine, which I very often do, but most raiders still don't, but that will not last. So yeah, mid tier. Now onto the active skills. As you can see, I have sorted them, so we will first rank the Traversal / escape skills, then the stun skills, the defense skills, and the last 3 are more miscellaneous skills. First up, the grappling device. You start with this skill equipped and you should never ever take it off. This skill is absolutely amazing. This is the only thing that will save you in many situations due to how fast it can be used and how fast you move with it. Mastering how to quickly grapple away from the raider is the #1 way of surviving and winning more games. Grapple to some cover, use another escape skill, and you're out of the vast majority of raider engagements. This can also be used during fights, especially if you are level 4 against a good raider. You will often need to use this to create more distance when the raider catches up to you while you have no backup. Can be used to dodge level 4 raider special as well. Can be used as a traversal tool. Basically, if you aren't using grapple, you are playing this game wrong. Best skill in the game, easy Z tier. Zipline device. You buy this in the shop. This is like the untalented little brother of the grappling device. You basically set up a zipline between 2 points, which allows you and your teammates to move back and forth these 2 points for a period of time. The only real use for this would be to set up a zipline between the STM and a city area that still has multiple cooldown drink machines. Otherwise, you would usually want to stay on the move to cover more ground and loot instead of going back and forth between 2 points. Also, the raider can see and destroy it, and it's not fast enough to flee, so yeah, I will rank this into the bad tier. Floating device, or the trampoline as I call it. You start with this skill equipped. It allows you to bounce up high in the air, which can be used to cover distances quickly and flee from the raider, although it probably won't save you from a good raider as the arc is predictable. Definitely not a bad skill when you start out, but it gets quickly outclassed once you get more skills. The low cooldown makes it a good option if you want more mobility and you can jump on it with bikes, so this will go into the good tier. Also, I love when people use this when I'm the raider, like I'm having a lot of fun following people and jumping on them. So there's that too. Nimbus. This is a go-on exclusive skill. You call a floating cloud that counts as a vehicle, which goes on cooldown once you get off it. I was going to put this into bad tier again, since it has a long cooldown and has a slow startup and slow speed, which makes it useless if the raider is close to you. But it does combine with the vehicle speed boost, and you can use the Nimbus to distract the raider by making him go after you, can chase you for a while as long as you have some distance. But it won't work on good raiders since they will use a lock-on speed boost to get closer instead of spamming Ki Blast, but it's good enough for me to bump it into the mid tier. Bulma Spike. This is a Bulma skill, so you only need to be equipping her to be able to use it, until you upgrade the skill to plus 10 of course. You can equip this right off the bat, and you should, because this is the best escape tool aside from the grapple, and they combine together perfectly. Once it's time to disengage the raider, grapple to cover, get on your bike, and you are out of there. It also combines with the vehicle jump and speed boost passive for increased effectiveness. Everyone should run this. Z tier. The next 3 active skills are also usable for combat. First of them is Change Missile. This is an oolong skill. You can transform into a missile, which allows you to move away at medium speed. Raider can still lock onto you, however. I almost always shoot down people using this as raider, but at least you can also use it as an emergency rocket launcher to interrupt the raider. So mid tier. Saiyan Pod. This is a Vegeta exclusive skill, and it calls a pod down next to you, which then allows you to drop down somewhere else on the map. This used to be Z tier in the beta, but it was sadly nerfed pretty hard. The cooldown increased, although they did reduce it a bit since, but more importantly they increased the time it takes for it to come down once called, so it's not the great escape method it used to be. Despite all the nerf, it's still a good skill, since it's the only one that will allow you to move from one end of the map to another really fast, and you can use it to drop on the raider to interrupt them, which can really save your ass in many matches. I now consider the pod a good tier skill. Kaioken Rush. This is a Goku exclusive skill that will let you rush forward a significant distance. So many good players are still running this skill, and I'm very confused by that. I kill at least one person trying to flee with this skill per game when I'm the raider. The startup is just too slow. It has versatility since you can attack the raider and even damage him, so it could potentially come in clutch. Problem with that is that your character shouts Kaioken and glows red, which combined with the slow startup means you will never hit a good raider with this. Easily the most overrated skill in the game. I almost put this into bad tier, but the versatility bumps it into mid tier. Now we move on to the stun skills, starting with Go-Go Gum. A Boo exclusive skill that stuns the raider for a short time if it hits. This is similar to the Go-Go Gum move that the Boo Raider has, but it has a much longer cooldown, doesn't track, and doesn't do damage. So it works similarly to Krillin's Shoe, except with a longer cooldown and bigger projectile size, so it's slightly more likely to hit, but also more likely to get interrupted by the environment. This is probably the worst stun in the game, but I think all stuns are good, so good tier it is. Krillin's Shoe. A Krillin exclusive skill, you throw a small projectile that stuns the raider for a short duration. It's a better Go-Go Gum, but not by much. If the raider moves in any direction except towards you when you use it, it'll miss. Still reliable if you want to run a stun build, but otherwise I would never run this over Solar Flare nowadays. Good tier. Trap Device. You buy this in the shop. Using it drops a device with lasers that the raiders can't see and that stuns him if he touches them. This was nerfed a bit since you can't stack multiple traps by yourself anymore, but despite that, my opinion on this skill has improved since my first list. This is amazing for STM defense, has a low cooldown, and stuns the raider for a significant amount of time. The raider can destroy it, so it's not super reliable if the raider notices you dropping it, but you will still get a lot of use out of it. Great tier. Charming Pose. This is a Bulma skill. You do a little seduction dance that stuns the raider for a short time. I used to think this was the best stun skill in the game, but unfortunately the 1 minute cooldown makes it less good than Solar Flare in my opinion. But it's still the most reliable stun in the game, the range is good, and the skill is active for a few seconds, so you don't need to time it as much as other stun. This will go into the good tier. Solar Flare. This is a Tianchenan exclusive skill, where you use the classic Solar Flare pose to blind the enemy. I used to think this wasn't a good stun, but I was wrong. You need to be careful about the timing and range, because this will only work if the raider is looking in your direction and is close enough when you use it, so practice is required before you can land this more consistently. It has a short cooldown, making it usable more than once in longer battles, and more importantly, you can hit this through the time machine and through chest, making it an excellent defense tool. It's also the longest stun in the game, I think. This is the stun ability I recommend everyone run, especially if you will only run one stun. Great tier. Now onto the defense skills, although these first two are more about stealth. Change Camouflage. This is an Oolong skill that will transform you into a random object that can be found on the map, or a Mr. Satan statue sometimes. This also greatly reduces the range at which the raider can lock onto you. This can be good to approach key slots and down teammates when the raider is camping them, but otherwise this skill isn't all that useful since you can still get detected by key sense and radars. It also promotes hiding and being too careful, which is not how you win in this game. You also shout "change" loudly, meaning it can't really be used to lose a raider that is already chasing you unless he is pretty far. Big Death is just better in that situation, I think. Fun skill, but it goes into the mid tier. Fake Death. Yamcha exclusive skill, obviously. You produce a small explosion, after which you fake being dead until you move again. This can be used similarly as camouflage and is even better in some situations, like hiding behind a chest in a cave. Raider is not likely to notice you, and it can be used while in a chase by making him think he downed you, although this probably won't work unless there are other players around to draw his attention away. The initial explosion can also be used to interrupt the raider and push him away from you, so it has versatility. But still, another perk that promotes hiding and being too careful, so I will also rank it into mid. Smoke Bomb. You start with this skill equipped. This prevents the raider from locking onto you and anybody next to you when you use it for a few seconds. Another overrated skill because I still see tons of people using this. As the raider, when people use this against me, they rarely get away. It just doesn't last very long, and it's still possible to hit them if you aim properly. It can be good if you use another escape tool right after, especially early on when you don't have a lot of good skill, like using Smoke Bomb plus Trampoline can be decent. And I would actually like to use this in battle, as it could potentially allow you to close in on a raider, where you would usually be Key Blast spam, but I would need to test that one out. For now, mid tier. Wall of Defense. This is a Piccolo exclusive skill that makes you immobile and invincible for a few seconds, and it will also warp you in front of a close ally if the raider is using a special on them. It has a short cooldown, so it can be good for STM defense, and when the raider is starting up an attack that you can dodge like a volley, or if you started a melee towards a Fat Boo that uses his AoE attack. It can also be good to protect someone making the wish, but if you are alone this won't save you because you are very vulnerable once it ends, and any raider that recognizes that you are using Wall of Defense will simply back away and spam you with Key Blast until the ability runs out. Can be an alternative to the next two skills if you don't have them yet, although this is a 5-star skill so it's a bit rare. All in all, mid tier. After Image. This is a Cell exclusive skill. It makes you do several short teleports in any direction once activated. It's very similar to the Cell Raider skill, except the cooldown is longer and you aren't invincible until the animation ends, The raider can still hit you when you shortly reappear if he happened to be hitting or shooting in that spot. This is the only skill in the game that will save you if the raider stuns you or starts a melee combo on you. This allowed you to get out of that and keep fighting for much longer. This is excellent for fights since melee combos from raider do tons of damage and stuns make you vulnerable for a melee combo or a special, so this skill will save your ass constantly if you fight the raider often. Which you should. I almost put this into Z tier, but one thing that brings it down is that it lacks versatility. If you aren't fighting the raider, this will rarely help you and will just buy you a few seconds, although these seconds might be all you need to get a skill off cooldown to actually escape. So I will rank this into the great tier. Energy Field. This is an Android 17 exclusive skill that creates an impenetrable shield that blocks anything that the raider can hit you with for a short time. This is also the only skill I never tried because I can't roll it. But I've seen enough people use it against me to know it's good. It can be used for combat to approach a raider and can be used to escape right under the raider's nose. Pop the shield, get on your bike and speed away even if you are out in the open next to the raider. Despite how amazing all of this sounds, I will rank it into the great tier. Because the cooldown is 2 minutes, so I'm still unsure if I will replace After Image with it once I finally unlock it. Energy Field is just superior even if it can't be used while stunned or comboed, but I can use After Image multiple times in engagement while you only get to use Energy Field once in a fight pretty much. Now the last 3 skills that don't really fit in their own categories. Item Search. Android 16 exclusive skill, it detects unopened chests through walls and gives you an outline of all the closed ones to you for a short period of time. If you just started playing the game, you don't know the maps yet, and you happen to roll the skill early, then I would actually recommend that you equip this skill since it will help you learn where the chests are. But once you know the maps, the skill becomes useless. Only use I can think of would be if a zone was mostly searched, but the key still hasn't been found and you don't have a key radar, then you could locate the still unopened chest faster. But that's literally the only possible use I can think of for a non-beginner. Do not waste one of your precious active slots on this crap. Trash tier. Till. Farmer exclusive skill, so you will need to grind that dragon pass if you want this. This makes you till the ground with a hoe, which might drop a random item that can be found in blue chest. Sadly, most of the time this gives you nothing or 50 zennies. It has a 60-second cooldown and you are vulnerable when using it. The only time you would be happy to run this is if you get a cooldown drink out of it, which is rare, so unreliable. It could be good for the strategy I was talking about earlier in the list, where you have one player that just buys rocket launcher to drop them into area X for later. They could also be running this skill to get even more item, but that's pretty much it. Bad tier. Last but not... Actually, I almost said not least, but this skill really sucks. You buy this in the shop, it makes you throw some kind of circle that will travel to the other side of the map and detect the raider if he happens to be in range of it. Like I said before, you will know where the raider is most of the time anyway without detection skills, and active slots are precious. Why would you ever waste a slot on this crap? Our last skill goes into the trash. And that is my tier list, folks. Let me know what you think in the comments below, especially if you think I overlooked a use for a skill. I'm planning to do one of these for the special attacks as well, sometimes in the future, although I will need more testing for those. I'm also planning a Survivor and Raider guide. Let me know if you have more suggestions. Please leave a like and of course subscribe for plenty of Dragon Ball The Breakers content. Thanks for watching.